Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
This is where we take that stack of sources you send us and we really, well, dive deep, right?
Exactly. Pulling out the key stuff.
Trying to get you that shortcut to being properly informed on something complex, hopefully with a few, surprising bits along the way.
Keeps it interesting.
Today, we are digging into material around some pretty significant recent proceedings. It's the trial involving Sean Diddy Combs.
And the main source you've given us this time is it's a detailed transcript. It covers specific trial days, really zeroing in on the witness testimonies from that period.
Right, so it's a specific snapshot.
And very much so.
So our mission, like always, is to unpack what's in this transcript. The core info, the witness accounts as they're laid out here, maybe even some of the courtroom atmosphere it describes.
Just helping you understand what this particular source reported. That's the goal.
Now, before we jump in, we absolutely have to cover some crucial points. The source material itself flags these, and they're vital.
Yes. First and foremost, this trial is actively ongoing. And under the U.S. legal system, any person accused is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. That's fundamental.
Absolutely. We're reporting on the source content. We're not making judgments.
And second, the source material explicitly warns that it includes sensitive topics.
Yeah, this is important for you to know up front. The transcript we're looking at contains discussions and allegations relating to things like sexual assault, domestic violence, racketeering, and other really serious claims.
So if these topics are distressing or triggering for you, please be advised as we proceed. We have to relay what's in the source, and that includes these sensitive details from the testimony.
Our role here is strictly neutral. We're not endorsing anything said in the testimony, not taking sides with prosecution or defense, no opinions on the legal stuff itself.
Nope. We're just conveying the information presented to us in this source material you provided, sticking only to the details found right here.
Okay, clear. Let's get into this source then. Let's unpack what was reportedly happening in court.
All right. So based on this transcript, it sort of sets the stage for what's called trial day number 18. But it actually starts by recapping the key events from the previous day, day 17.
Okay, day 17 recap first. What did the source say happened then?
This is day 17 really focused on testimony from three main people. There was Brianna Bongolan, described as a close friend of Cassie Ventura.
Right.
Then Enrique Santos, he's a digital forensic analyst. And also a witness identified only as Jane Doe.
Let's start with Brianna Bongolan. The source says she was back on the stand for cross-examination.
That's right. And she's identified, like you said, as a close friend of Cassie Ventura, the artist who settled her own lawsuit against Combs previously.
And her testimony, according to this transcript, involved things she says she witnessed when she was with Cassie. But the source makes a point she didn't actually work for Combs herself.
Correct. But she recounted some pretty disturbing incidents she claims she was present for.
Including a really serious one, the source highlights her claim that Combs actually dangled her, Brianna, over a 17-story balcony.
Yes, that specific dramatic allegation is noted in the transcript as part of her testimony.
Wow. Okay, and the defense reaction, the source says they challenged that immediately.
They did, specifically during the cross-examination. They reportedly questioned her timeline for that alleged assault. They presented information suggesting Combs wasn't even in Los Angeles on September 26, 2016, which was the date she'd initially linked to that balcony incident.
So questioning the accuracy of her memory on dates.
Pretty standard defense tactic.
Yeah.
She apparently clarified under cross-examination she wasn't 100% certain about the exact dates when she first mentioned it.
Okay, so how did the prosecution respond to that challenge?
Well, according to the source, they introduced evidence to try and support her credibility, even with the date uncertainty. They presented a text exchange dated September 30th, 2016, so just a few days later. This exchange was supposedly between Cassie Ventura and Christina Combs' former chief of staff. And in the text, Cassie apparently described something similar happening. The quote in the source is, "He came into my house while my friends were here and we were all sleeping. They woke me up because he was ringing the bell crazy at 3 a.m.
So the argument was, this text, close in time, corroborates Brianna's story of a disturbing incident, boosting her overall credibility.
That seems to be the prosecution's angle, as
Yeah.
reported here, yeah. Showing something fitting the description happened around that.
But the defense didn't let it go. The attorney, Nicole Westmoreland, she pressed Brianna further.
Yes. The source says she questioned where Brianna's memories were coming from, suggesting maybe emotion, maybe hearsay things she heard from Cassie, not saw herself, or even potentially money influenced her memory rather than just hard facts.
Kind of framing it as subjective experience versus objective proof.
Exactly. Highlighting the lack of direct evidence tying Combs to her alleged assault, specifically the balcony claim.
And they also questioned why she waited so long to come forward.
Uh-huh. The source indicates they suggested maybe recent lawsuits, or all the media attention might have shaped her story, rather than it being something she'd consistently maintained,
Ah.
trying to imply external influence.
Okay, and then the source mentions this really interesting moment with the judge.
Oh, yeah. Courtroom dynamics.
Yeah.
Judge Subramanian apparently reprimanded Combs through his lawyer because the judge saw Combs shaking his head while Brianna was testifying.
Visible to the jury.
That was the judge's concern, yeah. He reportedly gave a very stern warning, made it clear that visible reactions, head shaking, faces, gestures wouldn't be tolerated.
Because it could look like trying to influence or intimidate the witness.
Precisely. The judge reminded the attorney, mentioned as Agnolo in the source, that the jury sees the defendant and courtroom decorum is essential, especially from the defendant.
And the source includes a pretty blunt quote attributed to the judge's message.
It does. Very colloquial. Sick your $5 ass down before I make change. That certainly gets the point across about the judge's stance on courtroom behavior.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so after that moment, the court heard from the digital expert, Enrique Santos.
Right. The forensic analyst. He testified about extracting data from 3 of Cassie Ventura's iPhones.
Recovering deleted stuff?
Exactly.
Oh.
Texts, call logs, lots of deleted records apparently came back through the forensic process. Important potential evidence.
Did he mention any issues with the recovered data?
He noted some technical things, yeah.
Yeah.
Like some messages missing contact names or having weird characters. Explained that can happen with, data corruption or when things are deleted and recovered. Standard forensic caveats.
And he clarified something about screenshots, too?
Yeah, just that the date a screenshot is taken isn't necessarily the date the actual conversation happened, a technical point about interpreting that kind of evidence. After that, he was reportedly dismissed.
Okay. Then the source mentioned some housekeeping before the jury came in for day 18. Procedural stuff.
Seems like it. One thing was a court order about Combs apparently having trouble making phone calls from jail to his legal team.
Even though he has minutes allocated?
Yeah, reportedly 300 minutes a month, but the defense complained he couldn't connect. So the judge ordered the jail to look into technical problems and report back by June 6th, 2025, which is, well, today, interestingly.
Huh. Shows the judge managing those practical defense issues. What else? Admissibility of evidence.
Yes, a big discussion about those screenshots. The texts between Cassie Ventura and Christina Corum that came up earlier.
The defense didn't want the jury seeing the screenshot format.
Right. Defense attorney Alexander Shapiro argued just the text content should be admitted, not the photo format. But the prosecution wanted the jury to know they were screenshots. The source doesn't spell out why, but maybe something about preservation or context.
And the judge had thoughts on this argument.
Seemed a bit skeptical of the defense pushing so hard on the format. The source quotes the judge saying something like, "I'm just not sure this is the heel you want to die on," suggesting it was maybe a minor point to fight over.
But Combs's other attorney, Driscoll, had broader objections.
Yeah, argued the texts were backwards-looking and hearsay. And also brought up the defense's view that Combs was upfront about the relationship with Jane Doe being non-monogamous, claiming Jane Doe herself had said that, trying to frame the context differently.
And the prosecution's counter-argument.
They said the defense, in their opening statement, had attacked Jane Doe's credibility and called everything consensual. But Jane's testimony, which the jury was hearing, was that she felt coerced. So the prosecution argued the defense opened the door for these texts to be admitted, specifically to rebut the defense's opening claims.
And the judge agreed.
Ruled they were admissible for that purpose to rebut the defense opening. Even though the defense objected again about foundation, proving authenticity and relevance, the judge allowed them after the prosecutor insisted they had laid the foundation.
Okay, so with those legal arguments settled, the jury comes in and the main witness takes the stand.
Exactly. And this is where the source really shifts focus, spending a lot of time on the testimony of the anonymous witness, Jane Doe.
Her testimony makes up most of the rest of the transcript analysis, it sounds like.
It really does. It's reported as extremely detailed. She talked about meeting Combs back in 2020. He was dating her friend at the time, apparently.
And she described getting involved quickly.
Yeah, she said she became consumed by Sean pretty fast, and that he initiated these encounters she called freak-offs, also referred to as hotel nights or debauchery.
And a really central claim, according to the source.
A huge one. She alleged she was coerced into having sexual encounters with escorts, almost constantly, estimating about 90% of the time she saw him. And this was despite, she testified, repeatedly saying she didn't want to.
And the source highlights her explanation for why she felt obligated.
Yes, this seems crucial based on the transcript. She reportedly told the jurors, and I'm quoting the source's version, "My feelings of obligation really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent."
He was paying her rent. How much?
She testified it was close to $10,000 a month for her rental home. And, importantly, she alleged he would often threaten to cut off those funds.
So that's a direct link she draws, the money and the feeling of coercion.
That's how it's presented in the source, yes. And this detail, the rent payment and threats, apparently connects back to Combs' initial bail hearing.
So?
The transcript mentions the government, at that earlier hearing, had talked about a potential second victim. They argued Combs contacting this person after the raids on his homes was evidence of obstruction of justice.
And the government claimed he said specific things to her then.
According to the prosecution's arguments cited in the source, after the raids, Diddy supposedly contacted this person, now seemingly identified as Jane Doe, and said things like, let me find the quote. "Look, we're friends those nights that we had. You actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right?"
Trying to get her to agree it was consensual, potentially linking it to the rent continuing.
That seems to be the implication the prosecution was drawing, based on the source. They also claimed he told his accountant something like, "Don't do anything stupid. Make sure you continue to pay her rent."
But Combs' team disputed this interpretation back then.
Yes, the source notes the defense argued she wasn't a trafficking victim, that the government hadn't even spoken to her at that point, and that Combs' actions weren't obstructive conduct. That was their stance.
But now, as the source puts it somewhat dramatically,
Yeah, the source says, however, Sis turned, but now she is sitting on the stand testifying against the man that we all know is Sean P. Diddy Combs, setting the stage for her detailed testimony.
Okay, so let's get into those details of the hotel nights, as she described them.
The source dedicates a lot of space to this. Prosecutor Comey reportedly questioned her extensively.
Like about a trip to Vegas?
Combs was hosting something, wanted entertainment for the night. When asked what happened, Jane reportedly just said, "We had sex."
And she explained terms like going off the grid.
Yeah, said it meant getting free, needing to really lock in to the mindset for these nights.
She also testified he called her names, like freak.
Yes, and that he wanted her to be wild and sexual. That's the dynamic she described, according to the source.
And then this really disturbing detail about condoms, or rubbers, as she called them.
Right. She testified she asked the first time if the entertainers could use them, but claimed Combs guilty tripped me out of it.
Describing his tone as condescending, said he didn't want to see them used.
Yes. And she made a point of saying she raised this when sober, outside the hotel room context, and that specific conversation was actually recorded.
They played audio in court.
The source says audio was played, though it was scratchy, and a transcript was shown on a screen, but apparently not where the public gallery could see it.
And she explained parts of that recording.
When she said, "I think they're in a chair," she meant the condoms. When Combs allegedly said, "You're just going to take the DSE," she understood it to mean they just had intercourse with the entertainer. And when he allegedly said, "If you don't touch yourself right now," she took it as him telling her to just move on from her hesitation.
And she was asked why she felt she needed his permission for the other person to use a condom.
Yes, a direct question about the power dynamic. An objection was overruled. The source notes.
Then there was a sidebar, but the source mentions a text she sent him in 2023. A really direct one.
Extremely direct. Quoting from the source again. "I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you ever since I opened up Pandora's box. I've never been able to close it. I feel it's the only reason you have me around and why you pay for my house. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights."
And his alleged response?
Just, "Girl, stop." That's what the source reports.
When asked why she didn't just refuse these nights, what did she say?
Testified that he would get agitated if she said no, linking back to that alleged pressure and the financial dependence.
She described the sequence of events, too, with the entertainer finishing.
Yes, she testified the entertainer would finish on me, and then she'd immediately have sex with Combs.
Yeah.
And it's really disturbing detail. She said she didn't clean up in between because Sean liked it to play around with it, calling it nasty. Then she'd shower and get ready if another entertainer was coming.
She mentioned rounds, Like multiple encounters in one night.
Yeah, said it varied, but some entertainers might do 3 rounds in a session.
And Combs decided when she could stop, even if she was tired.
That was her testimony. She said she'd try subtle cues, "I'm hungry," making little faces.
But his response.
Allegedly things like, "You're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's go out on a high note, let's finish strong." The source specifically notes she started crying when recounting this part.
And she linked drug use to this. Said he gave her ecstasy.
Yes, testified he gave it to her specifically to keep her awake and able to continue having sex with the entertainers through these long nights.
She talked about crying after these nights on specific occasions.
2 times, yeah. The first time she thought it was just a date night, but an entertainer showed up. Sean apparently called it a quick one, but it ended up lasting 18 hours, involving 3 rounds with the entertainer.
18 hours.
Right.
Wow.
That's the testimony reported. When Sean said he had to leave after that, she started crying, feeling awful he'd leave her alone after all of that. This was apparently early on, at the Waldorf in Beverly Hills.
And his reaction to her crying.
Allegedly dismissive, asking, "Are you crying, like looking disgusted?" And just sat there, music, smoking. She testified she was clinging to him. Eventually, he offered to change plans so she could go home with him, and she said she just wanted to be in his arms after all that.
And the second time she cried.
Was in the shower after another night. Said she was so high and just couldn't stop crying.
His reaction then.
Reportedly.
Yeah.
"Stop, don't do this right now. Stop, I'm too high."
Hey.
Again, suggesting a lack of concern for her distress based on her account.
There was also that moment where she was asked who did most of the work.
Right, referring to the entertainer Paul. Her voice apparently cracked as she just said, "Me." Very poignant moment as described.
And she called the nights work from start to finish, tried to speed them up.
Yeah, tried having sex faster, less foreplay.
But Sean allegedly told her.
Slow it down, more foreplay, reinforcing the idea that he was directing things, according to her testimony.
And the time frame for this specific incident she detailed.
The source puts it between May 2021 and October 2023, mostly, with maybe 5 more instances after February 2024 at places called Two Star and her LA home.
Okay, let's talk about the drugs aspect more. She mentioned seeing various types.
Yes, listed ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, pink powder, possibly Tui and Xanax being present in the rooms, and crucially testified that Sean gave them to her.
And her reason for taking them. This sounds awful.
It's really difficult testimony. She reportedly sobbed, saying otherwise the experiences would be too real, that the drugs would make things easier. It paints a picture of using substances to cope with allegedly unwanted or traumatic situations.
Did she ever do these nights without drugs?
Twice, she testified. Once with Paul, she tried not taking anything to protect her body, but said it felt too real. So she asked Sean for a pill. He allegedly gave it to her and she felt better.
And the other time?
Was apparently when her partner, likely Sean, suggested a sobriety party because he was allegedly taking too many pills. But this sobriety party still lasted 18 hours.
An 18-hour sobriety party.
That's the term reported. During that night, she testified she felt sick after the first 2 men and threw up. When she told Sean,
What did she say?
his alleged response was chilling. "That's good. Now you're ready for the third guy. He's here."
Oh my God, how did she say she felt then?
Disgusted, repulsed, too mad at myself for letting it happen. The source notes a break was called right after she said this. Understandable.
After the break, she testified about drugs being brought in when they ran out.
Yes. Said Sean would call assistants or security to bring more. Named Brendan Paul, Frank, John, Faheim or F.A., and Guido.
And the source specifically flagged Brendan Paul.
Yeah, reminded the reader about his arrest in March 2024 with Combs in Miami, the alleged drugs found, the drug mule labels some used, and his case eventually being dismissed via diversion program in December 2024. Contextualizing that name drop.
Did she say what these people brought?
Said Brendan brought pill bottles, cocaine, weed. Mentioned Faheim and Guido too, with Guido allegedly mostly bringing ecstasy, Molly, Xanax, cocaine.
And she took Xanax herself.
Testified she took it sometimes, specifically after putting Sean to sleep.
Then there was this testimony about her allegedly carrying drugs for him across state lines.
Yes, a very serious allegation. From L.A. to Miami. Said someone named KK told her security would give her a package, that it was fine. KK supposedly said, "I do it all the time." Jane testified she flew with it, later took ecstasy with Combs from that package.
And it happened again.
A couple weeks later, she testified. Combs allegedly asked her to take another package to Miami. Said Christina Coram told her security would give it to her outside his house and to put it in her checked luggage.
In her checked bag.
That's what she testified. Said she did it, flew to Miami, gave the drugs ecstasy, she said to Combs in the bathroom at 2-Star for another hotel night. If true, that's transporting across state lines.
Okay, and circling back to the money aspect. She testified he's still paying her rent now.
Yes, that's what the source reports from her testimony during these trial days. Still ongoing financial support.
And other payments besides rent?
Her teeth veneers, because he allegedly didn't like her teeth, and furnishing her house because the allowance he gave her wasn't enough. She said she was using credit cards, too.
All reinforcing that financial dependency she described earlier.
Exactly. It paints a picture, from her perspective, of significant financial entanglement tied to the relationship demands.
How were the entertainers chosen? Did she talk about that process?
She did. Said before October 2021, Sean reached out himself. But then she started choosing.
Why did she start choosing?
Said she didn't want to be a stranger, wanted some familiarity, wanted to assess the dynamic. Apparently started while they were watching porn together.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. Saw a performer. Sly Williams called him chef due to his cooking interest and just pointed that one.
And she contacted him.
On Instagram, she testified. Said she was a fan, suggested meeting. Then a FaceTime call happened with Sean present, got hot and steamy. She asked Sly to show himself, including his genitals, while she was casting the call from her phone to Sean's TV.
So Sean was watching this initial interaction live.
That's the testimony reported. She arranged Sly's flight from Atlanta to L.A. via Expedia. Sean paid her back. Also mentioned Diddy's travel agent, Jessica, booking a flight for Sly once when Jane was too high to type.
And Sly came for a night. She described a routine.
At the Latage Hotel. Involved oils, being in uniform, dancing, then sex. Sean allegedly watching and pleasuring himself.
And she invited Sly back. Paid him.
Yeah, suggested him again because he was familiar. Met in New York, too. She booked his flight, pay him $2K, $4K cash afterwards from Sean's drawer or via Cash App from Sean.
The source mentioned messages from Sly where her response seemed bland when Sean wasn't around.
Right. He sent an explicit pic saying he missed her. She replied, "Looking good," with smileys. But testified her response was intentionally toned down because she wasn't with Combs. Said receiving those messages sober was not something that I'd like to see, showing that alleged difference in her persona.
She reached out to another entertainer, too, Anton Harris.
After watching his films with Sean, she testified. He was in L.A., she messaged him on Instagram. He was receptive.
And they met?
At her place first, Sean allegedly watching, being happy. Also met at hotels in L.A. and her apartment later.
And she FaceTimed these guys when she was alone with Sean.
Testified Sean wanted something live while they were having sex. So she'd FaceTime Anton or Sly, screen share to Sean's TV, told the guys she was alone to make them comfortable, even though Sean was right there.
Wow. And asking them for photos?
Because Sean wanted them. She testified. He'd say, get it. They sent pics even when she wasn't with Sean. She was polite, maybe flirtatious, but not as flirtatious as when Sean was involved. Never saw them in person without Sean present for these encounters.
The source listed several other names mentioned.
Don, Paul, Leo, Italian, Michael, a Spanish buff man, a European man, a number of individuals allegedly involved over time.
And the frequency was high, every week or two.
Between May 2021 and October 2023, that was her testimony. Then maybe 5 times after Feb 2024 at 2-Star in her LA place.
Any details on the others, like Don or Paul?
Saw Don only in Miami, last time August 2024. Paul was seen very often, last time end of July 2024. Paul also apparently worked as Sean's personal trainer sometimes. Leo, met through Sean, last seen LA 2023. Michael seen twice, met through Sean.
Did she admit to ever arranging these nights herself, like as a surprise?
Yes, she did. For special occasions, maybe Valentine's, his return from a trip.
Why would she do that if she didn't want to?
Explained she'd hear the gray lines in between his words, interpret things he said like, "I can't wait to see what you have in store for me," as him wanting a performance. Said she just knew what the task was being asked of me.
But why fulfill that task if she felt coerced generally?
Her stated reason in testimony. Because I loved him very deeply. Suggesting her feelings for him drove her to meet these perceived expectations, even unwillingly.
And the cash was always around. Easy access.
In a drawer or nightstand, she testified. If Sean ran out, he'd call security or an assistant like KK, and cash would appear. Paid guys like Paul and Don $2K, $4K cash at the end. Suggestive assistant, as you say.
Okay, let's shift to the physical toll she described. This sounds brutal.
Yeah, the testimony reported in the source details significant physical consequences.
Her back hurt from bending over. Vagina got sore.
That's what she testified. But she said she didn't tell Sean because she didn't want to seem negative about it all.
And she mentioned frequent infections, UTIs, yeast infections.
After nearly every freak-off, she testified. Also back and shoulder pain from holding specific positions Combs allegedly liked, at the edge of the bed or seat.
And he'd make her do it even if she had an infection.
Sometimes, yes, before a UTI had healed, causing burning, constant urination. Pelvic area hurt. But didn't complain, she said, because he wanted positivity. Just highlights the alleged pressure to endure physical pain, and his reaction if she did suggest pausing or stopping.
Allegedly became upset, defensive, belittling, dismissive. The source notes a sidebar here suggesting this was a sensitive point legally. Did she estimate how many times she told him she didn't want to do it?
Said she didn't have a number, didn't keep count.
But she did express it, in writing sometime.
Yes, wrote about it privately and sometimes texted Sean directly. Testified that text exhibits shown confirmed she'd been texting him about this since 2021, so not a one-off issue, but ongoing, according to her account.
The source mentioned specific texts, like feeling jealous.
One from November 2021, yeah. Saw him with another woman on IG stories, felt mistreated because she was there for a hotel night. Then he was giving the other woman quality time that I was begging for.
Another text mentioned,
I need a breather and a break from you. This doesn't make me feel good at all. Your true intentions with me are in plain sight. Pretty clear message.
and that voice note from Combs that was played sounded defensive.
The source quotes parts like, she asked me to work out, this is the time you're going to curse at me. Don't matter if I just effed her, be sad to go crazy. I don't deserve being honest with someone.
She testified he often called her crazy.
Yes. Said it made her feel confused, consistent with alleged emotional manipulation tactics.
What was the context for that voice note?
She wanted quality time, felt he just wanted the hotel shit, as she put it. Caused conflict.
She also testified about feeling cheap after seeing him with another woman at a party, texting him about feeling played.
Yes, comparing how he treated the other woman, business partner, spending money on him, versus how she felt treated, writing, I feel cheap.
And feeling jealous because she had to take all of this on and they didn't.
Right, referring to the hotel nights, a feeling of inequity in the relationship demands.
There is another text. It's not me you want or miss.
She testified she meant he wanted the hotel nights, the performance, not her.
But after fights, he'd smooth things over.
That's the pattern she described. FaceTime her, calm her down, say what she wanted to hear, downplay things, say he loved her. Could be seen as that cycle of conflict and reassurance.
She wrote notes to herself, too, that weren't sent.
Expressing her raw feelings. Why am I just your freaky desire? And one after her birthday night. You were partying with another girl. You just want me for debauchery. I'm done being used by you trashing my house with dirty debauchery. I'm done.
That birthday night sounds particularly rough based on earlier testimony. And after that, he went on vacation with someone else.
That's what she testified. Texted her he hadn't told the other girl about her birthday, made it sound like Jane just had a nice dinner with friends, a dinner Sean paid for but wasn't at.
And when she said she was tired after 3 men one night, he threatened to break up.
Reportedly texted, I'm tired of you throwing sex in my face. Let's just be friends. She testified she saw this as him ending things anytime she resisted the hotel nights, making the relationship conditional.
How did she react to that?
Crying, asking if he was serious, saying he was the only man in her life and he'd just taken someone else to Turks, a place she'd wanted to go with him. Very emotional plea.
And his response to her long, emotional texts.
Allegedly dismissive again. I'm tired of these long texts telling me what I'm doing wrong. To which she reportedly replied, what am I doing wrong?
And the source says court broke right after this exchange was described.
Yeah, judge called a break then.
During that break, something serious happened regarding Jane Doe's safety.
Yes, the source reports her lawyer raised concerns about YouTube accounts trying to dox her, find, and publish her identity, contact info, recording live streams.
People trying to unmask her while she's testifying anonymously?
That was the concern. Her counsel asked if those people were in the courtroom, said they'd ask to ban them if found.
What did the judge do?
Advised them to make an ex parte filing, presenting info just to him due to the sensitivity. Said he'd have marshals investigate. Her lawyer stressed publishing her info would violate a court order. Judge asked for whatever info they had immediately. Shows the court taking witness safety very seriously.
Okay, back to her testimony after the break, a more specific incident.
She described another note she wrote herself. feeling lied to and used for a hotel night right before he took a break with someone else, connecting the alleged performance to his subsequent actions again.
And her trip to France. She tried to take a break.
For 5 days, yeah. But he started texting her constantly. Paris, Paris.
How did she feel about that?
Felt he cared, but knew she needed to stay strong. But he was adamant they see each other, and she admitted she missed him, loved him.
So they planned to go to Turks but went to Miami first. And his expectation for Miami was...
A night of debauchery, then to the beach, he allegedly wrote. She pushed back. No, we have to reconnect. He supposedly said, cool.
But it wasn't cool.
Didn't turn out that way, she testified. Bickered about Paris and Miami. After dinner, he took a pill, went to a hotel, watched porn, then asked, do you want Dawn? She said yes, because she was just used to it. Then they went to Turks.
And in Turks, things got painful. Paul came.
Paul reportedly came. She was back in the outfit, tried another round, but it was really painful. Physically couldn't have sex, extremely sore.
Sean tried to help her continue.
Tried to lube me up, she testified. When it didn't work, he allegedly said, you can't take any more dick.
And her reaction.
Threw a bracelet, said, you only brought me here to...
How did Sean react to that outburst?
Allegedly focused on Paul's perception. How can you make me look like that in front of Paul? Told her to apologize to Paul.
And she did.
Messaged Paul apologizing, saying she was glad he came. Testified she did it because Sean told her to. Said she wrote messages like that to Sly and Paul to make them feel good, like they were not being used. Called it doing what was the love contract.
Which brings us back to that love contract, March 2023, where the rent payments started.
Yes. He asked how much she wanted. $15 K, he countered $10, started paying her rent. And again, testified he's still paying it.
Plus the teeth, the furniture.
Right, because he didn't like her teeth, and her allowance wasn't enough for furniture, she used credit cards. All tying back to that financial control narrative.
She mentioned promising him an all-star party. What was that?
Bringing the top 3 guys all in the same night, she testified. Said she did it because she was with her lover, and he liked that idea.
But she expressed hesitation about it.
Yeah, needed to be up early, got sick last time.
Yeah.
Sean reportedly texted asking if her VJ hurt, saying she wasn't being straight with me.
And then immediately referenced her asking for furniture money.
A minute later, the source says, quoted her text about furniture right after she expressed reluctance about the sex party. The timing suggests a possible link being drawn.
He also texted, Rico is ready. What was that?
She wasn't sure. Maybe a person? Maybe Michael. Or maybe a roleplay character Sean adopted. She didn't know who Rico was.
And she tried to get a night off using her period as a reason. Pink toilet paper.
Showed him a photo, suggested they postpone.
His alleged response.
You're getting your hair done for nothing. I'm done. Again, that alleged conditional reaction.
She explained movie night, too.
Meant no entertainer. Just watching recordings of previous hotel nights together. Watching our own movies, she called it.
And she confronted him about bringing up her child's father.
Texted him. Why do you talk about the father of my child? Oh, because you don't get your way one night and bust a nut.
And his voice memo response was,
Played in court. Allegedly said, I don't have time, baby girl. You need to get on your job.
How did she interpret get on your job?
Making sure he was happy, which included these nights. She responded about him always bringing up the house payment, feeling like a guilt trip.
And that's where the source says the testimony broke for the day or a week.
Yes. Judge called the break, thanked the jury, standard instructions to avoid case coverage.
The source includes some other scattered details from her testimony, too. Filling things out.
Yeah, a few more specific examples or descriptions.
Like one encounter at the La Targe with a man who was sweaty, smelly.
She testified, being repulsed, tried to make it work, told Sean she wasn't feeling it. He allegedly laid her down, had sex with her while the man hovered, sweating on her, told her to look at the man's genitals. She couldn't. Sean told the man no worries. He left. Then Paul came next while she was blindfolded.
She found Paul more comfortable, relatively speaking.
Thought he was handsome, nice, warm energy. Still didn't want to have sex initially, but if she had to, it was not so bad with Paul.
Her birthday in Miami 2023, she expected to be alone, but there was entertainment.
Yes. Felt like a robot turning into another person who can just do this. Was quicker with this stranger. Asked for a rubber. Sean, behind the man, gave dirty looks, seemed so disappointed even after handing it over.
Then after that man left, things shifted. Cake and balloons.
Switched rooms. Sean was reportedly more loving, celebratory. Then Sly came.
And with Sly.
Hours and hours of pleasing this guy, doing foreplay. Things I know my partner wants to see. Until morning. Then Sean allegedly said Dawn was coming. She said nothing, just fine, because I love my partner. Had sex with Dawn. A very long, taxing birthday described. She also testified about being recorded by Sean on his iPhone. Often, yeah. He'd say nothing or it's just for me. Importantly, she testified she was not recorded when she wasn't on drugs, linking the recording to her altered state.
And she acted like she enjoyed it. Role play.
To put on a good show, she testified. So much role play of fantasy, Sean creating characters.
Exhibits were shown of her with entertainers, Dawn, Sly, Paul, etc.
Yes, though not visible to the gallery. She testified Sean was present for all of those encounters.
Wearing stripper shoes the whole time, baby oil dripping in them.
Yeah, struggling to keep balance sometimes. Another detail painting a picture of the scene.
And the nipple piercing story?
Sean allegedly asked her to get them pierced, turn them on. KK set up the appointment. They got infected. After lingerie irritated them, she took them off. Sean's alleged reaction, "Where are my piercings? It's the last time I see you without them." Demanding.
Okay. So pulling back from all those intense, specific details from the source, we've covered Brianna Bongolan's testimony, the technical stuff from Enrique Santos, and this incredibly extensive, detailed account from Jane Doe.
Yeah, the transcript really gives us that specific window. We see the courtroom procedures, the defense challenges on credibility and timelines, the prosecution using Texas corroboration, the judge managing things.
Right.
And then, obviously, the core of it is Jane Doe's allegations about the relationship. The alleged coercion tied to money, the drugs, the control over the encounters, the physical and emotional toll she described. It's all laid out in detail in her testimony as reported here.
It's definitely a lot to take in, covering alleged incidents, communications, routines over a long period.
And we have to stress again, just like the source material did. These are allegations in an ongoing trial. Everyone accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Our job here was just to convey what this specific transcript reported was said in court on those days.
So for you listening, processing this source means understanding the specific claims made under oath, seeing how evidence and arguments are presented by both sides, and grasping the complexity of these kinds of legal proceedings with such sensitive stuff involved.
It really highlights the challenges, doesn't it? Presenting and examining personal testimony, especially about difficult topics like coercion, drug use, memory, relationship dynamics, where there are power imbalances, especially financial ones like she described. How does the legal system even try to evaluate all that?
Exactly. And maybe here's a thought to leave you with, based purely on the dynamics described in the source material, particularly Jane Doe's testimony. How do power dynamics, financial, emotional, social, maybe even control over substances, how do they shape and potentially distort personal relationships? And then how does the very structured, formal, public setting of a courtroom try to make sense of, interpret, and ultimately judge those incredibly complex, private, often messy human interactions?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the source material you sent over. We hope breaking down this transcript helps you feel a bit more informed about what was specifically reported during these trial proceedings.